In this video, I will introduce my book, The Rise of China Inc., How the Chinese Communist Party Transformed China into a Giant Corporation. Leveraging its absolute power, low human rights advantage, and tolerance by other countries, the Chinese Communist Party has turned China into a giant corporation, with the party as its sole owner. For example, the right to start a business is owned by the CCP. If it does not like someone, this person cannot start a business. The CCP also owns the right to name a company. The words such as China, national, are monopolized by the CCP. The government has direct access to the bank account of firms and can establish its branch in firms. The CCP owns the stock market. Through window guidance, the party instructs private stock brokerage firms to sell if the market is too hot and to buy if it is too weak. In recent years, the CCP has increasingly manifested its ownership over many businesses and industries, including high-tech, tutoring, delivery, entertaining, gaming, and real estate. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba and the fintech giant Ant Group, made unflattering comments about the government, and the CCP stopped Ant Group's IPO. The US IPO of ride-sharing giant Didi displeased the CCP, and the party ordered it to delist. De jure, Ma has the right to criticize the government, and Didi has the freedom to list in the US. But de facto, the owner of these firms is the CCP, and the party must remind them who the owner is from time to time. This de facto ownership by the CCP applies to all firms in China. State-owned firms are business units of the party state. Firms with close ties with the CCP, such as the high-tech firm giant Huawei, are the CCP's subsidiaries. Private firms such as Ant Group and Didi are joint ventures with the CCP, with the party having the control right. Foreign firms must have a good relationship with the CCP to be there. While having more freedoms, they operate under the auspices and are the franchisees of the CCP. The closer a firm is to the CCP, the more privileges and the fewer freedoms it has, and the more obligated it is to fulfill the party's orders. People in China cannot freely choose where to live. Without the government's approval, they cannot go to school, work, or purchase an apartment. Rural people who live in the city without government's permission are illegal immigrants in China. All these make people more like employees of the CCP rather than citizens. Living, working, and doing business in China are not rights, but privileges granted by the party. The CCP has transformed China into a giant corporation. The Central Committee of the party is the headquarters. The leader of the party is the CEO, and the ministries are like the functional departments of China Inc. For example, the State Security Ministry can help China Inc. to obtain economic intelligence, and the United Framework Department can help China Inc. to identify investment opportunities and recruit talent overseas. The industrial policy of the Chinese government has become the business strategy of China Inc. The party identifies industries deemed important, selects domestic players, shields foreign competition, and obtains needed technologies, and mobilizes the resources of the entire country to develop them. The large domestic market enables the Chinese firms to quickly achieve economies of scale. Once they achieve low-cost production, they will go up to dominate the world's market. For example, in the high-speed rail industry, China banned foreign entry and yet took technologies from Germany, France, and Japan and produced its own train set called the Fuxing. Now CRRC, China's gigantic rail monopoly, is the largest rail company in the world, exporting train sets to many countries, including the US. China's dominance in electric vehicle batteries and solar panels was achieved in the same way. China Inc. puts the democratic countries at great disadvantages. In state-to-state affairs, the Chinese government can act swiftly without checks and balances like a firm. In firm-to-firm competitions, the Chinese firms can act like a state, relying on the government in funding and other state assistance that is forbidden in the democratic countries, such as economic espionage or hostage-taking. The success of China Inc. relies on the tolerance of other countries, but many countries have begun to realize that China Inc. cannot continue as it damages other countries, and thus ask the CCP to make changes toward respecting human rights, the rule of law, and fair and open markets. Unfortunately, the CCP, Chinese firms and people enjoy the advantage of China Inc. and do not want to change. But they should understand that such changes would benefit not only the world, but also China. Because if China keeps taking advantage of the democracies, the latter will eventually be forced to delink with China. Delinking will hurt China more than the democracies, as the latter can benefit by trading with each other. In contrast, dictatorships cannot maintain mutually beneficial trade relationships. Worst of all, if a dictatorship is closed, the ruling and the ruled will infight, as shown in the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Therefore, the democracies should stand firm in their demands and be ready to drastically reduce links with China. Demanding China Inc. to change is a multi-stage process, and the goal is not completely delinking. In the first stage, the democracies should push the CCP to make changes, and the CCP may refuse and retaliate. In the second stage, the democracies should raise the pressure and delink further, making China increasingly isolated. Facing the prospect of internal turmoil resulting from the isolation, the CCP should make meaningful structural changes to relink China with the advanced economies. The most important structural change for the CCP is to embrace the rule of law.